guys doing? How are you doing? All right. Today we're going to be talking about tape. One of my favorite things. It's actually time for me to buy some more tape. I'm going to buy a couple more because I'm doing a bunch of music production right now, recording some new songs. So I thought I would start off by talking about tape. So first of all, we're going to look at one of my favorite ones that I use all of the time right now. And if you have any questions or anything like that, please feel free to chime in. And I'm also going to try to answer questions from the comments. So this is the one by ATR Magnetics, and this is what they give you when you get it, when you buy it. It is freshly made magnetic master tape, and it comes in this thick, heavy box. It, I believe, has track liner notes that it comes with, but I don't have it on in this one. And you get this beautiful casing for it, for your real tape. So really pretty. The only thing is it does cost a little bit more money when you get the box and when you get the case. So in order to save, I think it's like 50 or 60 or something like that, I tend to just get the spool of tape because, and I'll show you why, I have a lot of older tapes, such as the Quanta G456, but the tapes were somewhat unusable. And, you know, I'll show you what I did with those in just a moment. And these cases, you can actually find them online sometimes for like really, really inexpensive. And you can just use that and pop the tape in and save a bunch of funds doing that. However, I like to have the fancy official one, but oh well. All right, let's look at a couple more of those. Thank you for liking the live. So this is what it looks like when you just buy a roll of tape. Now the downside of this, for example, I don't know what's actually on this tape because I took it off a long time ago. So my assumption is I have to look at the quality of the tape and kind of determine if it came off of an older piece of a tape or if it's like a newer one. But this is how they come. And when you go to put it in, it's actually really easy. So if you're just starting out with tape, like, don't get intimidated by it. You just, it has like, I think 3 screws, and you put it inside the case and then you're done. It was a little bit intimidating when I first started off though. When I first started off, I'm like, what do I do? I don't know what it is about tape. It's like everything that you do when you first start off with tape seems intimidating. Everything. Putting on the tape is intimidating. Picking the tape is intimidating. Cleaning the machine is intimidating. I guess it's just because we don't really use it in everyday life. So there's really no like internal template, I guess you could call it, for that. So it can get a little bit like, oh, what do I do? But, you know, I did put a video out that shows you how to change the tape on the tape machine and also how to clean a tape machine. And there are other videos as well on how to maintenance it to make it really simple. And if you have any questions, go ahead and let me know if you have a new tape machine, because I know that can be really tricky, especially if you have a error with your tape machine. You're like, what do I do? And, you know, so that should help. So let's see. We're going to go over cassette and we're going to go over reel to reel. So on this roll, I had to label it, which was one of the smartest things that I ever did with these, is I labeled it which one it is. If not, I would have definitely forgotten. So this is the RTM SM900 tape. This is a super high quality master tape made by Recording the Masters. They still sell these around the same price as the ATR tapes. You said, can I post a link to my video on cleaning the heads of my tape machine? Hey, thanks, room at the top of the studio. It's one of my, it's in my, if you click videos, it's here. It's probably within my last 10 videos. Yeah. If you have any trouble finding it after this video, after this live, let me know. But you can probably go through and click on the videos right now, and it's something like titled like tips to maintaining your tape machine or something like that. So the RTM 900 tape, the problem with this tape, and I kind of discussed it a little bit in the past, there's no problems, it's an amazing tape, but it's not built for all tape machines. It's more so built for like if you have one of the fancy 1/2-inch tape machines, such as like a fancy stutter or a fancy one, because if you look, and you can actually probably see some of the differences here, and thank you for liking the live, it's very, like, might be hard to see on camera, but this is thick tape, very thick compared to, I don't want to unroll it too much and accidentally tangle it, because I have done that before. Compared to, let's say, this one, the ATR, which is a little bit thinner, but just that little bit goes a long way. And what happens is a thing called bleed through. So basically you go to re-record over a vocal or over a guitar part or whatever, and it doesn't fully re-record over it. So you have to erase it manually and do all this different stuff. And if you do a really great take that you're excited about, it's no fun when you go through and you listen back and you determine that you can still hear your old vocals on it. I've done that before, where I was really excited about a vocal performance. I'm like, uh-oh, and I could hear my other performance that I had re-recorded over super clear. And it gives it kind of this weird, cool sound, which might be a cool effect, but that definitely wasn't what I was going for right then. So these are great tapes. Let me make sure that I can get it all the way back on. You can also use like tape to make sure that it stays fully sealed and doesn't come loose like that, because sometimes it only takes a split second for the tape to just fully start to tangle up and come off the spool. So let's show you a cooler one. All right, and then we're going to talk about cassette here in a minute. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask. All right, this tape is a gift from God. This is a Grandmaster Platinum tape. Try to look up this tape. It's almost like it doesn't even exist. I think it's one of the greatest tapes ever made, probably. And I got it through a complete fluke. This is actually from the producer that did the legendary song, Whoop, There It Is. That song, like, by Tag Team. I ended up with his tape machine. You can see my tape machines back there. I probably should move so you can see them. I ended up with his tape machine. It's not that one, but it's just like that one. And also a bunch of tapes after he unfortunately passed on. And his best friend and caretaker, it's kind of a funny story. The whole story, actually, you know, I think I will tell a little bit more of the story. I had a dream, and the dream said that I needed to get another tape machine. I thought that was weird because I already had two, but I'm like, let me just look, because, you know, I'm kind of addicted to gear anyways. So I use gear as a part of, you know, my music recording and production and stuff like that. So, and at the time I was like way more intense. Now I'm like, I've chilled out. But I had a dream about that, and I'm like, let me just look and see what's out there, because you never know. If there's like a super good deal, you know, you could always, you know, use it for certain things or let a friend use it, or, you know, I'm like, let me just see what's on. I had a bad habit of checking the gear sites. Good morning. I had a bad habit of checking the gear sites almost every morning, or like once a week or something like that. And I saw one of the Fostex tape machines that normally go for 10 times more than what they were selling it for. Normally 10 times more than what they were selling it for. Actually, it was probably like a 20th of what you would normally get it for. And I'm like, what is this, some type of a misprint or something? And it's like a stack of tapes and the tape machine. And then it said, just someone passed away, and something about the memory of, like, it was just hard for them to, because the guy lived in his studio, like, he never came out of it. And apparently he guarded the machine and the tapes, like, with everything. Like, with that, he wouldn't let anybody in his studio. All he would do is just sit and record. He was also a disabled man, unfortunately. He had a car accident earlier in his life. And so he would just sit and just do music all day, and was very protective over his space. And I guess something about the equipment there was like a reminder, and they were like, we just want to go ahead and get rid of it. This was all the way across the country, but my dad just happened to live like an hour away. And my dad's out driving around a lot, and I'm like, would you mind going to pick it up? And he's like, sure. I've got the afternoon free. And I'm like, okay. He goes, and it was the real tape machine, fully functional, Bostex E16, and a stack of tapes. Now, mentally, this, I didn't believe it. I'm like, I think I got everything, to be honest, for $100. If you got, that's insane. Including tapes that, and then this tape right here, so this was one of them, is one of the most rare tapes that you can get. I tried to Google it online to find out more information. There's like no information about this tape. There, can't find them used. Hey, what's up, what's up? Let me scroll up and see what the comments say. Ha! You said every morning I would check on the gears available. I did back in the day. Back in the day, I was checking like at least once a week. I was like, if there's a, like, because I knew I at that point didn't need any more gear, but I was like, but what if there's a really good deal? And this time I had a dream that told me maybe you need another tape machine. What if there's a magical deal and it's like $50? Come get it today. You know, sometimes that stuff happens. I've heard about people getting crazy deals because they were just checking around, especially at like garage sales, estate sales. I have a friend that got, this man got $30,000 worth of keyboards. I'm sorry, I need a moment for this. This for a musician. If you understand, I'm going to tell you what keyboards and you'll understand what I mean. This guy got $30,000 worth of keyboards for $1,500. Including the Oberheim, the one that's $13,000. Including a bunch of Moogs. I think, are they called Moogs or Moogs? M-O-O-G. He got like 4 of those. Each one is like $3,000, $4,000, $8,000. And, oh gosh, he got so many. I think it was like 6 world-class synthesizers. They're each ranging anywhere from $3,000 to $13,000. He doesn't even care about them. In fact, there's one of them, he's like, oh yeah, you can take it. I don't have the space. The thing is so huge. It's bigger than the mixer over there. And I tried, trust me. It's heavy. It's like probably 200 pounds for that Oberheim OB8, I think it's called. So you can look up that keyboard. I want that keyboard so bad. I have a Oberheim DX right there. Has that same look. 1984 keyboard was very popular, used by Prince a lot, and on so many different huge songs that, you know, you probably like from the 80s. I wanted that keyboard so bad. He's like, you can use it anytime you want. So many times I think about that keyboard. That keyboard has a special place for me. Okay, but all right. But this tape right here, this tape is almost indescribable of how good it sounds. I actually want to do a video on that. I did record some samples of it, but this tape, the problem is it's been used so many times that you have to go through and find just the right spot where it's like we can get a super clear recording, and it's not the easiest thing to do because certain parts have a lot of dropouts and things like that. But I don't even know how to describe this tape outside of saying beautiful, sparkly. Like, it just does something. It does something that, wow. I've only used it one time. I used it for the song that I have, do I have any of those songs? One of the songs that I have up here, Not Ready or Not, is one, I'll think of, when I think of it, I'll let you know. But I used it for, the master of that song, and, the other tapes are good, but this one just adds something that is almost indescribable. And I can see why he used it over and over and over and over again. So I'm just happy I have it, but I think, you know, we'll see. That tape is really good, and it's really pretty. All right, so let's see. We're going to talk about tapes that are available to buy. So the moral of that story is when you can find different tapes that are kind of rare from the 80s, you can still find them. you know, I definitely recommend holding on to them unless it is an Ampeg 456 from the 80s. I found a brand new bundle, new and sealed one day. The whole lot, it was like 3 of them in the box still. Let me see if I have the box here. In the box still. And the boxes, these are actually the reels. I keep saying Ampeg, I mean Ampex. Sometimes these names, it kind of gets blurred. I have an ATR and ADR, I'll blur those. Sometimes the Ampex, the Ampeg, I'll blur those names together. So my apologies there, but this is what it looks like. That's not what's in here though. I have a RTM 911 in here, but the reason why I'm showing you this is it was brand new in the box and sealed with the plastic on it still. I got a pack of 3 for like $20, which is insane. That would normally be like probably about $200 or something. I was super excited. The tape looked beautiful, classic 1980s vintage tape, and it had a shedding problem. And that's what's really well known about the Ampex 456 tapes. So if you do get one of those, just beware. You'll have to get the food dehydrators, which can run anywhere from probably another $60 to $100, and you have to treat it for like 12 hours. I did buy one, but what I do find is there's a certain delicate art to it. The Library of Congress, U.S. Library of Congress uses them, like a special process, and I try to follow theirs as closely as possible. He said Ampex used to be a really popular tape back in the day. Absolutely. That was the tape. Yeah, absolutely. And the thing about the food dehydrator is even if you buy that, in my personal experience, it's only going to buy you a few hours of recording time before it starts shedding. By what shedding is when you're running it through the machine and it's spinning around, it's actually like melting as it's going through the machine. And it only takes a couple of minutes to look at your machine and find it's covered in goo. And then you have to go through and clean all of that out. If you're lucky, no big deal. You clean it with the isotropic alcohol or other type of like 100% alcohol. Clean it out and you're good to go. If you're not lucky, it can actually cause a lot of severe damage to the machine, will need to be serviced, or even ruin the machine. So just be really careful if you do get those. And so as a result, honestly, I used the tape one time. It sounded amazing for the 5 minutes I got before it started to shed. Quickly took it out. I do have the samples that I recorded from it. And after that, I put it away, and I'm like, one day, not in the summer, probably this winter, I'll record like a quick song or something on it. Just because I love how it has a really warm, good sound to it. But, you know, if you're looking for an equivalent, the RTM 911 is considered to be kind of similar. To me, they sound very different, but they're considered to be similar. My favorite tape is the ATR Master tape. I've talked about that before in the past. I also love the RTM SM900 tape. You know, if I don't mind dealing with the tape bleed that we talked about, which how you deal with that, if you do have an RTM 900 tape and you want to risk it on a Tascam TSR8 or Fostex E16 or Otari or something like that, kind of like the lower priced tape machines, how you deal with that is you basically go through, mark the spot that you want to start at recording, and just go through and manually re-record. Just hit the record button, but make sure there's nothing playing into it so it erases it. And then go through and record over it. So you basically want to go through and pre-erase it before you just start recording. With any other tape, you just rewind and hit record. So it does add like a little extra step, but it's not a big deal. Let's get into cassette tapes. And if I missed any comments earlier, I apologize. Thank you for the likes. We're going to talk about cassette tapes. Alright, I'm going to tell you about stuff that I wish I knew when I was recording with cassette for the first time, and a little bit behind the scenes of what I use sometimes. I love cassette. I feel like I don't use cassette enough, but for obvious reasons, I don't use cassette enough. cassette can be very difficult to work with in a controlled environment. Now, of course, that's going to depend on the type of music that you're doing, how many takes you want to do, what styles you want to, it depends on all kinds of stuff. But for me, tape is kind of unpredictable at times, cassette tape, and not my ideal go-to. But when I do use it, I like to use, I'll show you, I'm going to start with my favorite one actually. Is this it right here? This looks a little different. All right, it might be it. Maybe this is just an older label. I like to use the Maxell 60-minute high bias type 2. This is like a standard, or the Maxell 90-minute type 2. Same tape, just one's 90 minutes, one is 60. Like even you can see this one, I recorded my song up against the wall on it. Which was perfect for a cassette. Well, not the whole song, but a good amount of the song. But that song was before I got my tape machines anyways. Don't use this if you're using a cassette machine. My cassette machine is over there. I'm using the Porter Studio 424 by Tascam. That's the cassette deck that I use. Tascam made a lot of really cool tape machines cassette decks back in the 1980s, early 1990s. But don't use that with those. It'll say in the manual as well, you don't want to use a type 1. If you do, and I have done it before, you can get some cool sounds, but it's gonna be like half of the quality that you would get from a type 2. So only use that if you're gonna be doing like spoken word. It also, to my knowledge, is thinner and has a higher chance of getting caught in the machine. You said on the first video you made a couple weeks ago where you compared tapes to digital, where you sent a bunch of channels out of the DAW console back in. Oh, I can't see the message anymore. It like faded out. I don't know how to go through and select it. Let me see. Hold on. One moment. Let me try this one more time. Okay. It just like your message showed up for a split second and then it just slowly faded out, so I didn't get to reach the end of that. But we could talk about that in just a moment. The recording process. And if you want to copy and paste and resend your message, that would be awesome. But yeah, don't use a type 1 cassette tape if you're using a cassette machine to record music, unless you're just doing like spoken word, you know, just something for yourself or something that's like, oh, okay, got it. So he was asking for my video. Oh, okay, got it. He was asking for my video where I compared digital using a digital master recording, or you can call it a pre-master in that case, because that's not the final master. We'll call it a master. He was saying when I did it, the mix down, the pre-master, when I compared the digital, did I use the tape machines? Did I do it 2-track? Was I sending it just from the... Let me break it down. So for those of you who haven't seen it, it'll be more clear. So what I did was I essentially, for that video, for the test of comparing the digital recording to the tape machine recording, is I took the tracks that were already recorded. I already recorded them partially using tape. Actually, I used the RTM 911 tape because it's the flattest. It has basically no color. Recorded my tracks and then recorded them from the tape machine into the DAW, and then mixed everything down basically, or balanced everything out through the DAW. Did not use any plugins. And then what I did was I sent everything to the mixing board. So all of the tracks, all 6 of the guitars, I think were in that song. 6 of the guitars, 2 vocals, harmonies, bass, everything was sent to the 32-track mixer that's right there. I was able to narrow it down to about 16 tracks. And then what I did was I did my mix, added my compression, and so there's multiple videos where I'm showing the different steps there, where I'm testing out different compressions and EQs and stuff like that for demonstration purposes. Then what I did was I took the outputs on the mixing board, which are 2-track, right and left, and sent those into the tape machine. That's the the Tascam tape machine, sorry, and the Fostex tape machine. I also took those same outputs, the stereo left and right, from my mixing board and then brought it directly into my DAW. So I didn't make any alterations. It's going straight from the mixing board into the tape machine, straight from the mixing board into the tape machine, and then the other one is going straight from the mixing board into my digital audio interface, which is the RTM 802. Went straight into there, and then recorded the different recordings, or played back, I should say, the different recordings. How they were being played was not from my DAW. That's very important. I should have started with that part. Oh, you're welcome, DJ. How they were recorded was they were actually on my Alesis. I don't know if you can see it, this big old machine back there. The Alesis HD24. So this was a computerless recording at that point. So after I was done recording everything onto the computer, transferring everything onto the computer, I did a video about that as well. I sent everything over to the Alesis HD24. At that point, I turn off the computer and just focus on using that. The Alesis HD24 goes straight into the mixing board. And you might say, well, why do you do it that way? Why not just go straight from the DAW into the mixing board? And the answer to that is outputs, outputs, outputs. With the Alesis HD24, it has light wire, or you could also call it ADAT cables that can connect to your interface. This is a little bit somewhat advanced, but not at all. I did a video about that as well if you want to check out how to connect your mixing board in multiple different ways. But you can take, I take my ADAT from my DAW and get the full 24 tracks. Put those into the Alesis HD24, which has 24 outputs on the back, which works perfectly with the mixing board. If I were just to use my interface by itself, the interface only has 8 outputs on it. So much more limited. Sometimes if I'm just doing a quick mix, if the song doesn't have a lot of tracks, I can get away with just using just the interface and using those 8 tracks. However, I like to use those outputs for what? Of course, my speakers. So I don't usually like to unplug my speaker ports and all that. So typically, if I'm doing a mix down, I'll hook up the Alesis HD24. I don't really care for that step because I don't know, something about it. It's a little heavy and bulky, but it is kind of nice and a little tranquil to be able to just kind of turn off the computer and just work straight from that. That also means there's an additional copy of my mix down. So if something happens to my computer, an additional full copy of the mix down pre-recorded is on the HD24. That's kind of a cool thing. Cool way of getting a little backup. So if that was a little technical, I apologize. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. There are multiple ways. Oh, and if you haven't already, please give this video a like. And there are multiple ways to record without using your computer, basically as your primary, right? I'm not against using the computer. I use it all of the time, but there are benefits to using other things. But back to the cassette tapes. So here are the, yeah, there you go. We have the TDK SA60. I've heard amazing things about this tape. I have not used it. As you can see, I have a few of them. I bought like 3 or 4 of them. Something about these, I think I've overhyped them so much in my mind, I have not used them. I'm like, I only want to use it when it's something really special, so I have not used them. Same with this tape, which is brand new, made by ATR. Has gold particles. They use actual gold particles to make this super high-end tape that I'm like, okay, the gold series. I'm like, I want to make sure it's something really special, like a mix down or something like that. So I have not used that either. It might be fun if I do a video where I compare a mix down, using cassette tape, using the different types of cassettes. However, the problem with that is my Porta Studio 424 tape deck is kind of unpredictable. You know, sometimes it's solid and just consistent. Other times it does some wonky stuff. You know, the biggest thing is one ear. So basically the track 1 and 2, let's say track 2 will record way quieter than track 1. And it just does that, you know, and you have to do all these weird adjustments and it doesn't help. It's something going, yeah, that's a whole nother story. But it just does weird little wonky things sometimes. So kind of difficult to use it for that. Let's see what else I have. These ones I have used, the Maxell 90. This is a special, kind of a special edition that they made. You can still find them. These were like the 1980s versions of the Maxell cassette tapes. They sound cool. They do sound a little bit more vintage though. Here goes some more of those type ones that I don't recommend using for music recording. But even it says it on the back. It even says on the back, use it for voice lectures or if you're recording broadcast sources. Yeah, it doesn't say anything about recording music. Yeah, so they even do, right? And then this is one of my favorite ones, which is the Dion. I've talked about this one before in the past in some other videos and stuff. The Dion HD8. Very pricey at times if you don't find it for a good price. It can actually get kind of ridiculously priced. But I had a good few weeks where I was checking every day pretty much for bundles of brand new and sealed. Every cassette that I bought was brand new and sealed. Cassette tapes from like the 80s and the 90s. And I probably bought about 80 or so. I don't know. Something like that. Bunch are still new and sealed, which is good because if you can get them in a bundle, somebody finds, a lot of times people will find like a pack of, especially these ones, like 10 of these that they used to use all the time back in the day. They find them in their garage and they're like, hey, I'll give you the whole bundle for 20 bucks or something like that. It's best to jump on those because, you know, and that's usually what I do there. But, you know, you'll find them when you need them, I guess, with those. So that's basically the gist of it on tape. If I missed any questions, I apologize. Go ahead and feel free to ask any questions. Thank you so much for hanging out. I'm glad we got to discuss tape. If you have any more questions about tape, let me know and I'll answer it probably in a future video. But yeah, tape is cool. I talked about it in a few videos, why I like it, why I enjoy recording with it. I don't use it all of the time, no. But I use it quite often. Is it better? This is a big question I get asked a lot. Is it better to record with tape for the original recording? So let's say your original vocal, your original keyboard or guitar, and then transfer it to your computer or whatever you're going to use to mix it with, or is it okay to record with the DAW and then send it back to the tape? Do you hear a difference? And the answer is yes, you absolutely hear a difference. If you can record your raw source with the tape itself, that's the best ideal thing to do because the fidelity is a lot wider, the bandwidth or whatever you call it. The quality in general is the high-pitched frequencies are going to be more clear. The low end is going to be a lot thicker. There are so many different reasons. Yeah, it's better to record it with the tape machine, which can be kind of tricky and hard, but you know, because a lot of times with the tape machine, it's not like with a DAW where you just hit the button and you know, you can record unlimited vocals or whatever. Tape machine, you got to be ready. You got to know your lyrics. You got to come in at the right time and all of that. But does it sound different? Absolutely. So I'll describe it. Typically the highs are going to be a lot more crisp. They're going to be a lot more open. There's a lot more of a range as far as the high end detail. The low end is going to be thicker, fuller, and it's just going to sound, it's going to sound different. I'll just put it to you like that. If you record with it through the DAW first and then transfer it to the tape machine, bear with me here because some of you may be disappointed to hear this, is going to sound like something that you recorded to the DAW that you just ran through a tape machine. So it's going to sound more like an effect, which is cool. It does add a little bit of warmth or texture or color or the sound of the tape machine or something like that, but it's not going to be the big tape sound that you may want. So there are a few tips to get around that, and one is when you do go to record it from your DAW and then bring it to your tape machine, to add some effects or whatever, to mix it, you know, through analog first and then bring it to tape so you can get something enhanced. But if not, it's literally going to sound like something you recorded through your DAW that you ran through a tape machine. It'll give some tape compression, some tape color, maybe some decompression. Are you on here trying to compete with DJ? That's kind of bizarre. How do I want to actually, I'm going to address that in just a moment. All right, but let's get back to that. So it's going to sound like when you record it from the DAW to the tape machine, like you're getting a bit of the color, you're getting a bit of the saturation, the thickness, the warmth, and the texture of the tape, but it's already going to be somewhat pre-compressed from the digital DAW. All right. All right. So I do want to make it very clear to anyone that is new here, because we have been running into, we as in me, and some of the community here, we have been running into a little bit of an issue of people maybe here for the wrong reasons. On my channel, I'm a musician, I'm a singer, songwriter, guitarist, producer. I write, mix, master, record my own stuff. And you hear my music releases here, you get my music videos here, you also get to see a little bit behind the scenes, as well as me sharing tips and tricks if you're also into music, and you also get to sort of be a part of the music process, checking out gear with me, and also discussing the love of music and creativity, which is a really important thing. This is a place where people can feel safe and be lighthearted and express the joys of music and creativity and having fun with music and art. This is not a space where we're trying to compete against each other, or we're trying to one-up each other, or we're not here criticizing somebody else's gear. Look, you can get the most inexpensive gear and get the most amazing sounds out of it, and you can have the most expensive gear, and you know, it just depends, right, on what you're going for. Not everybody needs a bunch of fancy gear. Not everybody needs to record with analog. Not everybody needs to record digitally. This is about creativity, and that's how you create, is you figure out what you're hearing in your head. If you have the, you know, not all songwriters can do that, but you go for what you're going for. You know, if you want your classical violins to sound a certain way, you know, you shape the sound based on how you want it to be. But this is definitely not a space where we're going to do any type of competing or one-upping each other, or anything along those lines. Nothing that is negative. And there was one more thing on that. Anybody that does not respect that this is a creative space and it's about creation, having fun, enjoying the art of music and the love of music, is going to not be here. So that's something to make very, very clear. So with that being said, if you record with cassette tape, there are so many different types of cassettes that you can get to shape your own sound, and also with half-inch tape. And so with half-inch tape, so many good ones. I love half-inch. Quarter-inch tape is really good too. That's the like, I'll show you. Quarter-inch tape is like half the size of this basically. It was used a lot in the 1970s. And depending on what sound you're going for, it sounds amazing. It's also used a lot on 2-tracks for masters. Yeah, it can sound absolutely amazing. And also, you've got 1-inch tape, which is less common. That sounds amazing. Also, 2-inch tape, which is like the world famous 2-inch tape, right? Which is like really thick. Now, 2-inch tape is extremely expensive, so something to keep in mind. All of the tapes are great, depending on what you're going for and what sound you want. So, I always recommend, if I'm when I buy gear, I always customize it to what I'm going for personally. I don't buy stuff just based on, oh, this person has this or that. No, I think of what I'm trying to accomplish or achieve, and I'll buy the gear based on that. I also did enjoy listening to different clips and different stuff, and kind of hearing the capabilities of what different machines can do. But there's so many good machines. So much good equipment. And the last thing on that is, like, even if you buy a compressor, one compressor for one person is amazing. And then for the next person, it's not their favorite one, right? So don't feel like, you have to get this compressor or that compressor. Get which one you hear, like, oh, that's what, I love, that's the best way to do stuff, in my opinion, is I get my, equipment based on that. So, do I use all the analog all the time? No. Do I use the tape machines all the time? No. But every single time I've used tape, I've been happy I used tape. Every time that I'm like, nah, I'm not going to use it today, I sort of regretted it because I love how the recordings sound. It does take a little bit of extra time to set it up to record music onto it. And the recordings do have to be a little bit tighter. You can't, if you make a mistake, you can do an auto punch and go back and all, but usually when I use a tape machine, I like to go through and get it in one take and be done with it. Maybe 2 takes, and that's it. But with digital, you can just keep recording forever. You can record 100 takes, but I don't think I wouldn't necessarily recommend that, though. I hope you have an awesome, fun, cool, amazing rest of the day. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. And also, you can join the members only, where I'm going to be adding exclusive videos for members here. And also, we're going to be doing members only live streams and chats as well. You're going to get a lot more exclusive behind the scenes with that. And cool videos coming soon. And until next time, I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.